I'm Shelby Finley.
I'm Brent McKelvin.
And I'm Joseph Smith.
And we're the tech team. Have you ever tried to assemble a desktop computer? I bet you're wondering about what piece of hardware does what and where it's located inside of the computer case. Well, our tutorial will show you the ins and outs of a computer, how it works, and how to assemble it yourself. Without further ado, let's jump right into it. Now we'll be showing you how each different piece of hardware works inside of the computer. This is the power supply. It is responsible for supplying power throughout the entire computer. It works by converting alternating current into direct current, which is simply regulating the voltage so that there isn't too much electricity going into the computer at one time. It works with the Molex cables that works with the Molex connectors to connect to the different pieces of hardware throughout the computer to supply power throughout them. Most power supplies generally have a wattage of 250 watts.
This is the hard drive, and it is used for long-term memory storage. It is where the data of the computer is physically stored. It keeps computer files, computer applications, and operating systems. It can generally hold up to 320 gigabytes of data.
This is the optical drive. It is a device that allows you to display CDs or DVDs onto your monitor. It reads and writes data by using laser technology.
This is the RAM stick. RAM stands for Random Access Memory. It is a temporary memory, and it pulls data from the hard drive for the CPU to use.
This is a heatsink. The heatsink is a device that is placed on top of processors to absorb the heat that processors produce. There are two different types of heatsinks, active and passive. The active heatsink works with the cooling fan, and the cooling fan defers the heat that the active heatsink absorbs.
The CPU is the brain of the computer. It performs the basic input and output operations. It processes the programs and uses RAM to do so.
This is a motherboard. The motherboard is a circuit board that contains essential components of the computer. It contains built-in parts such as the CPU, computer processing unit, GPU, the graphics processing unit, as well as attachment slots for RAM, the accelerated graphics port, AGP, as well as PCI slots, which stands for Peripheral Component Interconnect. There are different types of motherboard form factors, which refers to the motherboard's dimensions as well as its design. There are form factors such as standard ATX, micro ATX, mini ITX, and ATX extended. The most common form factor is the standard ATX, which stands for Advanced Technology Extended. The motherboard is sectioned off by two sections, the north side of the board and the south side of the board. The north side of the board is where the computer's fastest components are located, while the south side of the board are where the computer's slowest components are located. This is the CMOS chip. This is a computer chip that is built into the motherboard. The CMOS chip's job is to store computer information that ranges from the system's date and time, as well as the system's hardware settings. This piece of hardware works even after the computer is turned off. This ensures that the system's time, date, and settings stay up to date. Like RAM, the type of memory that the CMOS chip possesses is volatile. This means the information on the chip is only stored there temporarily when the chip is on and working. This is the CMOS battery. The acronym CMOS stands for Complementary Metal Oxide Semiconductor. The CMOS battery powers the CMOS chip when the computer is turned off. The CMOS battery usually produces 3 volts of electricity. It can last up to 10 years. This is your BIOS chip. The acronym BIOS stands for Basic Input-Output System. The BIOS chip is a pre-installed operating system that allows you to access and set up your computer system's basic settings such as the standard CMOS features, BIOS features, chipset features, integrated peripherals, and power management setup. You can even change the boot up order of your computer's hardware. For example, You can choose to first boot up a secondary internal hard drive as well as any external devices such as USB or a solid-state drive. Unlike RAM and the CMOS chip, the BIOS is non-volatile memory which maintains information stored on it even when the computer is turned off. To access the BIOS menu, press the buttons F1, F2, F10, or F12 during the system boot up. These are the most common function keys used to enter the BIOS menu. However, these keys may vary depending on your specific computer brand. Your BIOS chip also performs POST, which stands for Power On Self-Test. The chip runs a diagnostic of your computer's hardware during its startup. If there is a problem with your hardware, there will be an error message displayed on the screen. You will not be able to boot up into your operating system's graphical interface until the problem is fixed.
Now that we have shown you the computer parts, we will show you how to place them into the computer.
When installing the power supply, you want to place it down like this and you want to make sure it clicks. Now I'm going to screw it in. After your power supply is screwed in, you want to wrap your Molex cables throughout the whole computer case.
As you can see, there are 2 arrows on the side of the hard drive, as well as 2 arrows on the side of the computer case. To install the hard drive, simply align the arrows and press down to hear the click. Once you hear the click, you know that you have successfully installed your hard drive.
Now we'll be installing the optical drive. First, you want to take off the front end of the computer case by just lifting these tabs. Now that you have it on, you'll just want to slide. You see the front of the optical drive. You just want to slide it through. Slide it all the way through until you hear it click. Now you want to grab your SATA cable, connect it to the optical drive. As you can see where I connected it, this will connect to the motherboard in the future once we place it in here. Then you want to connect one of the Molex connectors from the power supply into the optical drive. And there you go.
To install the motherboard, simply place it in with the back peripheral ports facing the back of the computer. Once you have placed the motherboard into the computer case, you want to make sure the holes in the motherboard match up with the screw holes in the computer case. Once you have done this, you can now screw in the motherboard. There are 8 screw holes located throughout the motherboard that you will need to screw in.
This is the RAM stick. Do you see this gold plate of metal? Do you see these black chips? Don't touch them. Your body gives off an electrostatic discharge that causes your RAM stick to malfunction. Now I'm going to install the RAM. Do you see these tabs here? To install the RAM, you gently pull back on them. To insert the RAM, find the groove on the RAM stick and line it up with the groove on the RAM slot. Then simply insert the RAM. Now that the RAM is in the slot, use 2 fingers to push down on it and lock it into place. If you've done it correctly, you should hear a click. If you do not hear a click, you have inserted the RAM the wrong way.
Now we'll be installing the heatsink. As you can see, I already have my cooling fan on it. It's connected by these 4 screws right here. The heatsink will go on top of the CPU right here in this section right here. So you just want to place it on top. You want to make sure this cord always goes this way so it can connect to the port right here. So you just want to place it on top. Then screw in. When you're finished screwing, you just want to get this cable and connect it to this port right here. And there's your heatsink.
Once you have installed all your computer parts, you will want to connect your Molex power connectors, as well as your data cables, known as SATA, to the motherboard. Particular SATA cables can transfer 6 gigabits of information per second. Once every part of the computer is installed and plugged in, you can attach the last 2 pieces of the computer case. The first piece is the front part of the computer case. You attach this by inserting these tabs into the bottom of the front of the computer case. Push until you hear a click. The last part of the computer to install is the top of the computer case. Simply attach this by lining up these black tabs with these slots on the side of the computer case. Angle it to get it in right, and press down until you hear the click. That is how you assemble a computer.